Hey everyone, welcome to the podcast. Today I've got a very special interview for you from a friend of mine named Brad Brandon. He's a newcomer to our Ministers Fellowship here in Connecticut, so we went out to lunch just to get to know each other better and probably spent about an hour talking and chatting about different things. And just before we were about to go, I don't know how it happened, but we started talking about missions. And when I did, his eyes lit up because he has a mission in Nigeria. Now, I'd been in Nigeria about 38 years ago, and so I had some reference point there, but as he shared his story, it became apparent to me that this was a story that needed to really be broadcast. And he's going to be sharing his testimony with us in just a few moments. But this testimony, quite frankly, will blow your mind. And it's not really all about Brad, so much as it is about God and what he'll do with someone who's willing to listen to the voice of the Lord. So, without further delay, let's listen to Brad share his testimony at the other side of the break. Back in a moment.
Welcome to Minister's Toolbox, providing leaders with the tools they need to succeed in ministry. Now, here's your host, Casey Sabella.
With Pastor Brad Brandon, and Brad is the pastor of First Bible Baptist Church in Plainville, Connecticut. Don't let that frighten you or anything.
Please.
But he's got a testimony to share today, and I just wanted to welcome you to the show.
Hey, it's awesome to be here, Casey. I really appreciate it.
If you could just kind of briefly tell us, how you came to faith, really what led you to the church that you're now pastoring.
Yeah, so when I was about 7 years old, I grew up in a single-family home, broken home. My mom was raising me and my two sisters, and we had a neighbor across the hall in our tenement housing, and she invited my mom to church one day. My mom went to church and ended up getting saved, and from that point on, we were raised in a Christian home, and we went to church and worshiped and served the Lord together as a family. And so that's how I came to faith, was at church, heard the gospel, received it as a small child, and ever since I've been 7 years old, I've been trying to tell people about the gospel of Jesus Christ. I remember the first person I witnessed to was my grandmother, the second was my grandfather, and so on and so forth. And through turn of events, I just became a pastor. The Lord called me into ministry. Started church in Minnesota, pastored that for about 15 years. And the Lord led us to Connecticut about 5 years ago to pastor a church out here.
Wonderful. We were having lunch the other day, and you began to share your mission to Nigeria. How did that start, and what was the genesis of that?
So the very beginning of it was I've been friends with a Nigerian for many, many years, a ministry friend of mine. He called me up and said there's a great revival that's sweeping in the southern part of Nigeria. And he said, would you be able to help or be willing to be part of it? Anything will help. And so I talked to the pastor who was kind of leading that revival. I mean, we're talking 3,000 or 4,000 people getting saved. And he said, one thing that we need is a building to house all these people in for church, for our meetings, and so we can keep this going. So our church chipped in. I mean, in one Sunday, we raised pretty close to $10,000 to build a church over there. Yeah. And so long story short is we built the building, and so I went over there to see the final construction of it. So as I'm preparing to go and fly over there, I go to buy my plane ticket. And like I told you at lunch, Casey, some years ago, I had gotten sick. I was in the ICU for about a month. And during that time, the Lord really revealed himself to me in a very special and a different way than I was ever used to. And I finally realized what the voice of the Lord sounded like. That was instrumental in what happened in Nigeria, because when I went to go buy those plane tickets to go to Nigeria, or the plane ticket to get there, one of the things that happened was right when I was about to click on purchasing the tickets, I was supposed to fly into Lagos, but right before I purchased the ticket, the Lord said, I want you to fly to Abuja.
Now, most people who don't understand with Nigeria, I mean, Lagos is effectively the New York City of Nigeria. That's like the major hub of where really most flights come into.
Yeah, yeah. And that you're right. That's a very cosmopolitan area, very business savvy, all of that kind of stuff. Flying into Abuja is like flying into the middle of the bush. I mean, essentially, it's in the far north. A lot of people stay away from Abuja because it's dangerous. And
why is it dangerous in the north there?
Well, it's dangerous because the further north you go, the more it's controlled by Boko Haram, and the more it's controlled by Islam. They're the Fulanis. They are a herds people. They're cattlemen. And they control, along with Boko Haram, a large part of northern Nigeria. And Abuja is right smack dab in the middle of all of that. So It gets very dangerous because of the different groups of people that are there. In fact, just a couple days ago, 300 students were kidnapped from a school in Katsina State, where one of our schools are.
Wow.
We don't know who did that yet. We don't know if it's Boko Haram. Pretty sure it's not the Fulani, but we don't know what group is claiming responsibility for that.
Now, when God speaks to you, we talk about God speaking to us. Obviously, it's not in our ear, but in our inner person. But He speaks to you and says, "Okay, it's not going to be Lagos. It's going to be Abuja or Abuja." I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correct. But that had to be not only worrying, just in the sense that you had no idea why God was taking you there, but also because, to your point, it is a lot more dangerous.
Yeah, and really, God kind of blinds our eyes to certain things. Yeah, He illuminates our path, right? He doesn't show the whole thing, just the steps in front of us, and sometimes that's good. I didn't realize how dangerous it really was there until I ended up being there.
Okay.
And so I'm thinking to myself, here I am in front of this computer screen. I need to fly into Lagos. That's what makes sense, because that's where our building is I would fly to the other side of Nigeria, not to make it confusing, but that'd be my main hub, is Lagos. The Lord's telling me now to fly to Abuja. I know this is the voice of the Lord. And like you said, it's not an audible voice. It doesn't have to be. It's a voice that's much louder than that. It's kind of like what Paul talks about, how spirit bears witness with spirit. His spirit speaks to my spirit and bears witness that we are the sons of God, right? That we have the spirit of adoption. So that voice is much louder and clearer. It doesn't need to be an audible voice. It's more defined than that. So I'm sitting there just about to buy the tickets, and I know that this is the voice of the Lord telling me to go to Abuja. The only problem is that I don't know anybody in Abuja. I literally know nobody in Abuja. And but I know this is the voice of the Lord. So just as an act of faith, I bought the tickets for Abuja, not knowing what I was supposed to do there, or where I was supposed to go from there, or who I was supposed to meet. It was absolutely just a step of faith. It was almost like God was saying, are you going to listen to my voice when you know it's my voice, but nothing else makes any sense? Will you do that? And He put me to the test. I wish I could say I passed that test all the time, but for that particular time I did. I did what the Lord said, and I flew to Abuja, not knowing anybody who was there.
So you had spoken to me that someone met you there, and how did that come to pass?
Yeah, so about, I would say 2 weeks before I was supposed to leave, I'm frantically trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do there. And God still is not revealing this to me. So here I am trying to figure it out. So I'm just doing research and reading articles. Maybe it's to do with the IDP camps, I thought. The IDP camps are displaced person camps. That's where refugees go within Nigeria who've been displaced by Boko Haram and the Fulani. There's over 2,000 of them in Nigeria, and there's 2 million people who are in these IDP camps. So I thought, and a lot of them are in the north because of the Boko Haram controlling that area. So I thought maybe it had to do with that. So I was researching IDP camps and reading that, seeing if something would spark in my spirit and my mind that would illuminate something of what I was supposed to do. And I read an article that a man who is Nigerian, but he lives here in the States. And he wrote an article on the IDP camps. And I just happened to email him and just try to make a connection. When I emailed him, he said, we should meet up the next time. I just explained to him that I had read the article, enjoyed it, and that I had an interest in Nigeria and was headed over there. He emailed me back and he said, the next time you're there, he's like, we should definitely meet up. When and where are you supposed to be the next time you go? I said, well, it's funny you mentioned that because in about 2 weeks, I'm supposed to be in Abuja. And I gave him the dates. And he said, oh, you won't believe it, but I'm flying into Abuja on the exact same day. The exact same day. And I thought, this is it. This is the Lord revealing what this is supposed to be all about. So we ended up meeting for breakfast that morning that my flight flew in. And so I went up to the Transcorp Hilton there in Abuja. We ate breakfast, and when I got there, sitting at the table was a man who is sort of like a congressman here. He's a member of parliament there. He's a chairman of the IDP camp committee, and I thought, oh, wow, this is great. The person who I was supposed to meet there, his name was Emmanuel. He says, I know a lot about the IDP camps, and I can take you to these IDP camps. And I just thought that he had invited this guy because he knew him and thought it would be good for the three of us to meet. So we were talking over breakfast for about an hour, and after that he says, well, why don't we go out to some of these IDP camps? And I thought, okay, we'll go visit them, and just, again, still looking for, what are you having me to do here? So we got in the car, and the other gentleman had to take off, the chairman of the IDP camps committee. He had to go to a meeting, and he was just there. So we get in Emmanuel's car, and I said, boy, that was great that you invited the chairman of the IDP camp committee. And he goes, I didn't invite him. He was just walking through the hotel, and I just happened to meet him before and asked him if he wanted to sit down for a breakfast with us. And that's how all of that came together.
I just want to thank Brad once again for sharing this first part of his testimony. And the second part is really the part that'll just blow your mind. It sets it up perfectly, though. This is where God really spoke to Brad, or taught Brad, a fundamentalist from his background, to hear the voice of the Lord in present day time. And as he listened to that voice, God led him to do some things that were rather strange at the time. But you're going to see, as this opens up, how God opened up an incredible miracle that ended up in the salvation of literally thousands of people. And again, we're going to save the part of that testimony until next week. For now, I just wanted to share with you once again that I'm going to be coming out with a book called Foundations. And that book, Foundations, is going to be coming out in mid-January. Before then, I'd like to ask those of you who are listening if you'd be willing to give me an honest review if I would be sending you the manuscript. So this is how it works. If you'll contact me at ministerstoolbox@gmail.com, I'll send you a copy of the draft of the manuscript that's about to come out. And if you'll return that manuscript with an honest review of what you think about the book, then I will send you a copy of the book, either in audiobook form or whatever form you'd like when it finally is published. If that sounds like a deal, again, contact me at ministerstoolbox@gmail.com. Before we go, I always end each podcast with a quote, especially for you. This one is from A.W. Tozier, who said, "The world is waiting to hear an authentic voice, a voice from God. Not an echo of what others are doing and saying, but an authentic voice." You know, it occurs to me that more than anyone else, ministers of the gospel are charged with sharing with this world an authentic voice. We need to be men and women who listen to the voice of God, hear that voice, and then transmit it to this world. Are you that voice? I know you are. Until next time.
For more resources, go to ministerstoolbox.com. Thanks for listening.